Hi students, Jordan here and welcome back to Bio 25 Online. Today we'll be talking about Lab 14, but we're actually going to break Lab 14 up into 3 different parts, parts A, B, and C, and we'll be splitting those parts up over the next couple of weeks. So we're going to start off today with Lab 14, Part A. I want to encourage you guys to all look at your Kahoots on your Canvas page. I think they'll be very helpful to you this week. Just as a reminder, I am hosting office hours this week, and those will be taking place on Wednesday at 1 p.m., and you can find the link to my office hours on your Canvas page. And I think that's all I have for you guys, so without further ado, let's just get into the video. So now's the portion of the video where we're going to talk about your introduction to muscles of the human body and their anatomy. Before we do that though, I want you guys to pause the video really quickly and read pages 70 through 77 in your lab manual. These will kind of serve as your introduction to this lab and how we describe muscle movements, and basically just kind of give you the introduction to this unit that we're about to spend the next couple of weeks on. So today we'll be covering your lab manual, pages 78 and the top of page 79. We're going to be learning about the muscles of facial expression, the muscles of mastication, which is just another word for chewing, the muscles of the neck, back, and torso, and the muscles of the abdominal wall. Now you will need to be able to identify these muscles based on their pictures, and you will also need to know their functions or actions. So for a quiz or an exam, you'll need to be able to look at a picture and understand what muscle I'm asking you to identify. And then for your exams, you'll also need to know the actions of that muscle. So you'll need to know what that muscle does in the human body. Thankfully, there is an action listed for every muscle in your lab manual starting on page 78. So I would use that to study because that's going to be a great resource to you moving forward. And without further ado, we're just going to start getting into the anatomy, and I'm going to walk you through these different muscles and we'll just get started. So first we're going to talk about the muscles of facial expression and mastication. Now remember, mastication is just another word for chewing. So if you'll see, we have the first muscle on our list, the frontalis, and that's just the muscle that controls your forehead. Next we have the occipitalis, which is in the back of the head at the occipital region. You can also see the temporalis in this picture, and that's actually listed under muscles of mastication on page 78. Furthermore, we have the orbicularis oculi, which is that circular muscle that goes around your eye, and hopefully you can see that and appreciate that. Finally, we have the corrugator supercilii, which is that diagonally shaped muscle above your nose. It kind of helps scrunch your eyebrows inward. Okay, so moving on, we have the nasalis, which is just the muscle on your nose. Next, we have the zygomaticus major and minor, and hopefully you can see those in the picture and kind of appreciate their location. Next, we have the risorius, which is in this bottom right picture. And the risorius is just that really tiny muscle underneath the zygomaticus major and minor that runs from the corner of the mouth to basically the edge of your jaw. Next, we have the orbicularis oris, which is that circular muscle that you can see going around the lips in the left picture. Next, we have the mentalis, which is just the muscle of your chin, so you can think about the mental region. Next, we have the buccinator or buccinator, as I've heard it called, and that's just that sideways muscle that is deep in your cheek region. And moving on, we have the platysma, which is this very thin fan-shaped muscle on your neck, and I actually have a tip for remembering this. So when I think about the platysma, I think about Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove, and I always think about how she has like this really wrinkly neck, and her platysma muscle must be like super wrinkly too. So that's how I remember the platysma. Next, we're going to be talking about the muscles of the neck, back, and torso. So first we have the sternocleidomastoid, which is this really long muscle that extends from your mastoid process all the way down to your clavicle. Next we have what's called the erector spinae group, and this is actually a group of muscles, but all you really need to understand is that they help erect your spine, as the name suggests. Next, we have the external intercostal muscles and the internal intercostal muscles. The external intercostals and internal intercostals look very similar, but how you tell the difference is the direction that the muscle fibers are actually running. So maybe you can look at this picture and kind of appreciate that the fibers of the muscles are running in different directions, and that's how you tell the difference. Next, we have the diaphragm, which, as you probably know, is this very flat fan-shaped muscle that sits above the liver and aids in our breathing process. Finally, we have the muscles of the abdominal wall, and this includes 4 different muscles, but we'll walk through them really quickly. We have the rectus abdominis, which is what makes up the, quote, six-pack. Then we have the external obliques, which are the obliques that are external to the internal obliques, which are the obliques underneath the external obliques. And you can also appreciate that their fibers are running in different directions, and that's how you would tell the difference. Finally, we have the transverse abdominis, which is the abdominal muscle in which the fibers are running transversely. So this should be pretty intuitive to you. So these are all the muscles that you're responsible for knowing this week, but I'll also remind you that you need to know their actions as well. Not for your quiz, but for your exam, the actions are completely fair game, and I'll be pulling them directly from your lab manual. Additionally, if you have any questions or any comments or any concerns, you know how to reach me, you know where to find me. I am always here to help you. Finally, for our fun anatomy fact of the day, there are around 650 skeletal muscles in the human body, so that is quite a few when you think about it. Okay, so hopefully you guys have a little bit more of a clear understanding of the muscles that you're expected to know for this week. And I just want to remind you again to study the actions of those muscles because you also need to know what they do. It's very important. So this week you will have a quiz over Lab 12, which we covered on Monday, and Lab 14 Part A, which we covered today. And without further ado, I just want to remind you again to stay safe, stay kind, and stay healthy. I will see you in the next one.